rotated through a hospital in Chicago one summer when I was a medical student. It was incredible. I got to see things I never would have experienced back home in Cork. I remember being completely shocked the first time that I saw a gunshot wound come through the emergency department, for example. But the first day that I was making my way to the hospital, I asked at reception of where I was staying, what's the story with public transport here? This is the address of the hospital. How do I get there? And I need to be there for 4 a.m. every day, because that's how it worked there. The medical students would do the pre-round at 4 a.m. The rest of the team would come in at 5. And the receptionist said, look, I don't recommend that you actually get public transport in the middle of the night to that area, because that area had a problem with gun violence at the time. And I think sometime in the previous year, it had been quite recent, an Irish girl had actually really sadly been murdered in Chicago. And I think that was possibly playing on people's minds. I don't know. So I phoned my mom and I was like, what am I going to do? They're saying I can't get public transport, and I'm here for 5 weeks. What am I going to do? And my mom said, look, just get a taxi for today and we'll figure this out. So booked a taxi. It was going to be $50 each way. And I said to the taxi driver, look, is there any other way that I can safely get back and forth from the hospital every day? Because I can't afford $50 each way, $100 a day, for over a month. And he was like, no, we're really just going to have to drop you and pick you up every day. And he was like, that's really the only solution. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot afford that, So he fed this information back to the owner of the company. And I don't know if the owner of the company had a daughter my age or what, but they did bring up that girl who had been murdered in Chicago. That girl was brought up somewhere along in this conversation, and they said, look, we're going to bring you to and from every day, just at a reduced rate. And I think they charged me something like $50 a week, something that was completely more affordable. And they basically just took me under their wing, this company, this taxi company, and I can't remember the taxi company name. And they picked me up every morning at 4 a.m. and they dropped me off, and then they picked me up in the evening, brought me home, and brought me door to door every day. And it was almost like, I was being picked off. It was like a, school drop off or whatever. I didn't have to book it. I didn't have to, text them or anything. They were just there waiting for me every morning to bring me, waiting for me every evening to bring me home, and didn't really even charge me. They charged me $50 a week when it should have been $100 a day for 5 weeks. So if the taxi company who did this for me, if you remember that, thank you so much for taking such great care of me. That was an incredibly kind thing to do. And, you really took care of me, really looked out for me. And it was really like, running out of school and like seeing your mom and dad waiting there for you to pick you up. Like, that's what it felt like. I was like, hey, and I would tell them about my day, and, it was just incredibly nice thing to do, So if the internet can find this company, I would like to thank you sincerely for doing that for me and taking such great care of me. That's over.